At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
TaxAct knows filing your small business taxes can be a nightmare, like the kind where you're being chased by a giant W-2 form and you're running and running, but you can never reach the submit button. Or something like that. So, TaxAct offers Expert Assist with live tax experts to make filing taxes less scary. Now, you can just have pleasant dreams about being chased by other giant, non-threatening paperwork. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Let's hang out. Let's hang out. And let's talk about what legends have found. Let's hang out. And let's listen to two lesbians shout. Let's hang out. Let's hang out.
Hello, our beautiful patrons, and welcome back to Let's Hang Out, the podcast where, buckle on your swords, everyone, we're all gonna go be heroes today.
Oh, you're my hero, Lee.
Oh no. Oh no! Emotions right out the gate. That's
right
too
out
much.
the gate. Mm-hmm. And I'm your sidekick.
I feel like that is the exact opposite relationship of everything about us, but sure.
It's okay.
Sure.
You know, we can swap sidekicking. We're switches when it comes to sidekicking.
Okay, go us. Switching it up. From the West Coast, I'm Leigh Holmes Foster.
And from the East Coast, I'm Ellie Brigida. Thank you as always for supporting our show. We couldn't keep making it without you.
And we are so excited to be bringing you our 12th Patreon bonus episode, our Lez-tracurriculars, but our first one of season 7. Welcome to season 7, everyone. We're doing it. We're here.
Okay, does season 7 mean we've been doing this for 7 years or 6 years?
We've done it for 6 years.
Is that wild?
It's crazy.
It's a lot of years.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Most podcasts don't get past their first episode, so I think we're doing
out
great.
Here doing it, Ellie. We're out here doing it.
We're doing great. And in this week's episode, we will be talking about Nimona.
Nimona.
Do you want to give us our IMDb synopsis, Lee?
I would love to give us our IMDb synopsis. So, our IMDb synopsis for Nimona is as follows. When a knight in a futuristic medieval world is framed for a crime he didn't commit, the only one who can help him prove his innocence is Nimona, a mischievous teen who happens to be a shape-shifting creature he's sworn to destroy.
Great synopsis.
Good synopsis. I also would like to, which we don't usually do. I mean, we usually talk about it sometimes, but given that there is, like a writer's strike still ongoing, actor strike still ongoing, let's also highlight the writers of Nimona. It's written by Robert L. Baird, Lloyd Taylor, and Pamela Ribin? Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Pamela. I feel like I don't need to read the whole cast, but we could highlight some of the big ones. Chloe Grace Moretz, obviously. Riz Ahmed, Eugene Lee Yang. Who else is in this? I think RuPaul voices someone in this.
Oh my gosh, who?
I don't remember. I just remember seeing in the IMDb list.
Nate Knight.
Amazing. So anyways, that's all. We're going to be taking a little extra time while we are supporting all of the unions striking to just highlight some of the people who made these things possible. So that's who made Nimona possible. There you go.
Yes, and super happy that they made it possible. What a cute movie.
Yes. Also we should obviously shout out Nate Stevenson, who created Nimona, who many of us know and love from She-Ra as well.
Yes, definitely good She-Ra vibes. I mean, good gay shit. Good.
So gay.
Friendship will save us all. You know?
So gay.
So gay. So sweet.
And I also, sorry, not to like immediately sidetrack us. I just love when things are gay out the gate. Like gay out the gate is one of our favorites.
Hashtag gay out the gate. It is gay super fast. Like that handhold moment, cute.
Adorable.
Do you want to give our listeners a little rundown of like what is the plot of Nimona before we sort of dive into themes and gay shit?
Sure. Okay, the plot of Nimona is I actually, you know what my favorite part of this IMDb synopsis is, just because I love these two words being side by side, a futuristic medieval world. Because it's so true, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Nimona opens with this like, oh, here's the olden-timey tale of how the knights came to be and the monsters that we swore to destroy and protect the city from or whatever. But then it jumps immediately to this like, yeah, it's not like steampunk, it's like medieval punk.
Yeah.
Right? It's like high-tech, futuristic...
high-tech knights.
Screen flying card knights, which I just think is great. So that's the basic sort of setup, and then what you learn is that there are this very prestigious position of being a knight, where you get to protect the realm and all this stuff, and it's always been sort of
noble-born,
elite,
kind of
elitist. Yes. Yeah. Elitism is a problem, and they decide to let one
commoner
punky kid in who's like, I can fight monsters too, and they're like, okay, and then he gets to go to knight school and become a knight, and then on the day that he is supposed to get sworn in as a knight, he pulls his little sword, the sword shoots the queen through the heart, and he is now most wanted, right? Like top of the criminal list, and ends up sort of getting a sidekick that he didn't ask for in the form of Nimona. And yeah, they become this like buddy cop, not buddy cop, buddy.
I would say buddy. They're buddy villains, but also
buddy villain comedy of trying to clear his name and figure out who actually killed the queen.
Yes.
And
it's very anti-imperialist.
Oh,
it's very like eat the rich, you know. It's very it's very like, who are the true monsters among us, kind of, you know?
Very anti-other
establishment.
Yeah, like it's just a lot of good messages all wrapped up in a little queer bow, which
we got some gay knights.
Fucking love
it. So Leigh, what was your experience with Nimona? Because you told me to watch this movie and I hadn't seen it.
Yes, my experience with Nimona was I know I had heard, I never read the comics, like the graphic novels, which I think came first, but I know that it's been in production for a long time, and it sort of had this roller coaster ride of actually coming to our screens. And so I know that I'd been seeing people post about it here and there for a while now, actually, about, you know, like, oh, someone picked up Nimona. Oh, it's not happening. No, it's back on. All this stuff. Those were sort of the first rumblings I heard, but I wasn't deep in it, right? I've sort of seen the whispers, and I think a lot of people were talking about it because it was Nate's project, obviously, and so many people like know and love his stuff from She-Ra. And so
what happened? So Disney had canceled it, right?
Yeah, it was,
and then
I think it had gotten picked up and dropped at Disney somewhere else. I honestly, I was not following closely enough that I super remember.
Let me read
very
this
well
because I want to make sure.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read this that I looked up. So basically it was started by Blue Sky, best known for Ice Age. Then Disney bought it. And so Disney bought Fox, which owned Blue Sky. And so Disney decided to not finish Nimona, even though it was so close to being completed. Right?
Okay.
And then the Disney employees, most of the LGBTQ employees of Disney, got pissed off and were like, you're not finishing this movie because it's gay.
Which sounds accurate.
Right? And then basically, Disney was like, oh no, it was for tax reasons that we whatever. Then Netflix picked it up and finished it.
Incredible. And now we got Nimona.
I
mean, still fuck Netflix, but
I even think there was something with Netflix too, where it was like, okay, they picked it up and finished it, but they weren't promoting it.
Yeah.
Right? They weren't giving it
I mean, honestly, I don't know that I've seen it promoted by Netflix. I've seen it promoted by queer people who were very excited about the fact that it was finally getting made and when it was coming out. And everyone I've seen post about it is gay. And that's the marketing I've seen. I don't know that I've seen a huge Netflix push of it.
They quite never do.
No, they don't.
They
really
never do. But I do think it went well.
I mean, it's a fucking great movie. It's incredible.
Yeah, because it says like that they weren't really, they weren't promoting it same way that they like barely promoted She-Ra, and like really you have to find it by somebody else telling you. Because same thing, I didn't really know, like when you were like, oh, have you seen Nimona? I'm like, what do you mean by that? Like, I guess I sort
yeah, you'd heard nothing, right? You'd heard nothing
when
about
like
it.
when we're talking right now, I definitely remember the controversy because I remember that it was like a new project by ND Stevenson that people were talking about was not being promoted.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that it was called Nimona. So when you said that, it didn't click for me. But yes, once you did tell me to watch it, then I decided to watch it because we're talking about it today. And it's so cute. It's a very sweet story. You know, I think it has a good message about the people that we deem monsters. And like sometimes when you call someone a monster, it almost makes them turn into a monster, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy because you've completely othered them. They have no friends. They're all alone. So, of course, they're going to be filled with rage and sadness. So I feel like there's a nice message, too, about just, like, accepting people for who they are, like, the people that society says are monsters are not. Like, that piece itself is already gay, right? But then they also have a gay love story, right? But I feel like the central theme of it really is Nimona as like a little queer girl who like nobody understands and is like this
Not a girl.
Queer shapeshifter.
Nimona as a Nimona.
As a Nimona. Like, and it's like, oh, society tells you that this person's a monster, but they're actually one of the like kindest, sweetest, most loyal people in the world. And they're a good friend, and like they just want to be loved. And you're just like, Nimona, no.
I'll tell you what, like when you start this kind of movie, you know, where it's like it's kind of YA-ish, you know, it's not you're not watching like Inception, right? I mean, it's like there's a lot there, but it's not trying to hide too much of it. I wasn't ready for like the whole like back half of this movie, you know, where you're just like Nimona. It's
rough.
It's like this movie really quickly turns from like Nimona no to like Nimona no.
Yeah, I was
and I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for the switch when it happened.
I was bawling.
I'm sure. I can't even imagine how many boxes of tissues did Ellie go through watching this movie. Let's
talk a little bit about the front half of the film before we dive into the back half, right? Because I feel like the reason that these two characters are so, like, they get each other.
Yeah.
Is because they are both othered, right? So, Boldheart, is that what his name is?
Yes. Ballister
Boldheart, right, is this knight who was born into poverty, and he's dating like the most like aristocratic man ever, the descendant of
descendant of Glorith. Can we discuss the name Ambrosius Goldenloin? I mean, just
gay.
Oh man, when you make your gay fancy pants knight boy and you name him Goldenloin, it's just like, it's so fucking great.
It's so on the nose.
It's so great. I love it so much.
It's so on the nose. But yeah, we get that gay love story right from the beginning, right? Like,
I know, and they're so
we get sort of like we get the overarching picture of the world, right? Which is like there are a lot of people in this world who are not happy that Boldheart is becoming a knight. Because they're like, he doesn't deserve it, blah, blah, blah. And then you have like everyone's excited for Goldenloin because he has been meant for this since he was born, right? And it's like, you see that, then you see the two of them together, and you're like, holy shit, these two people that we just saw on TV are gay and in love. Like, that was a that was a fun, happy twist for me in the beginning.
Yeah.
Where I was like, okay, gay nights, I see it. And
Well, and because we don't get gay nights that often, you know?
Mhm.
Gay nights is great.
And we also get like this person who was born into immense privilege who like, it's like a not Romeo and Juliet kind of, what's it? Princess and the Pauper kind of
Yeah.
love story, right? Where it's like, they'll all love you because I love you. Hand on hand.
They're so smitten. They're just smitten with each other.
They really are.
And I love it. Everybody's smitten until you're chopping arms off. It's
I know.
just, you know.
Then Goldenloin chops his arm off because he thinks that he just tried to kill the queen, right? He had to disarm the weapon. And, you know, we don't get a really a lot of happiness for our gay lovers
No.
from the beginning. So we have them separate. He's on the run. He meets Nimona. Nimona, let's just talk about like Nimona as a character.
She's so okay. Listen, if we're focusing on the first, you know,
First
kind of like
half,
front half of the movie, I fucking love Chaos Nimona. Like she's so much fun. She's so much fun.
Like that's the thing. Like I do feel like she's like chaotic good.
Oh yeah.
Right? Where she's like, let's smash things, like, but she's like taking care of, quote unquote, like she's the sidekick to her hero, right? And she's like, or her villain. She wants him to be a villain, right? But I feel like there's like a silliness in the villainy, right? Like there's like, she turns into a pink rhinoceros, right? Like it's like this villain is like the silliest villain you could ever find, right? The silliest monster. Like she's a gorilla. She's a cat. She's like, she doesn't turn into anything like crazy evil.
She's a whale.
She's a whale, right? Like
the fucking recurring like whale beats took me out, like the whole movie. A
So
little
good.
whale. They're just so funny. But it's like, you know why I think I love it is because I just finished reading a book series too that I loved that like also had a character very different actually than both Nimona and Ballister, but who I think worked for me for the same reason, which is just that like they're very principled. I love when you get people who are principled and who get pushed outside of the
society or the
norms of society, right? Because then what you get to do is you get to like play with that in a way that I, especially me as like a queer person, love a lot, right? Because that, I think that is, it's a thing that we talk about a lot, I think, on the show, is the ways in which existing outside of the standard path for everyone forces you to re-examine what that path is and what its merits are or are not, you know? And so I think that sometimes when you see like really principled characters in that position and how they each approach it, like it's fun. It's a fun little jaunt that you're going to go on as people realize, like, yes, burn it all down. It's all bad. It's all built on lies. It's all terrible. And I fucking love that. Love that.
I mean, it's a very, it is very She-Ra too, right? Like, She-Ra was like, the Horde is great, and then leaves the Horde and is like, oh, the Horde are the villains.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Right? So I do feel like Ballister has that thread of the She-Ra thread of like, no, like, we're protecting people, and it's like, no, you're not. You're protecting
right. Like
the
from
system.
what? From what exactly?
Yeah. Like we're protecting people from this cute little shapeshifter who just like wants to be silly and have fun. Like I'm confused. Why are we fighting monsters? Like this person's not a monster.
Who are the real monsters? Well, and so, okay, so that's, yeah, we get this sort of, you know, the first half of the movie where it's like, let's meet Nimona. Nimona's so crazy, and she's turning into rhinos and ostriches. I can't say
the
that
fact
word.
that she also turns at some
Ostriches.
At some point, she turns into the mascot for like the cereal that they.
Oh my god!
And she just like basically blows like Cocoa Puffs at everyone, or like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that was cracking me up.
Yes. All of that is great. And then then like the switch into like, hey, now we have figured out who the villain is, and like, because that whole twist, the reveal with the director, right, where they send Nimona in as Goldenloin and like get the whole video with the director, like that's like halfway through the movie.
Oh yeah, we know who it is, well, right? I think that's the point, right? Is like, it's not really the mystery of who it is. It's more like,
no,
okay,
not
so
at all.
Once we find out who it is, how does a person who has lived in this his whole life,
right,
reconcile
then what
that?
Do you do?
Like, how do you live with that? How do you like?
Yeah.
And then two, like, he wants to tell the person that he loves, like, get out of it as well. Like, I'm out of it. Come be out of it with me. Like, you're not in a safe space with the director. Like, so yeah. I think it is. It's
but
like,
then,
it is
but
early.
then that whole path from there into the like, now I'm questioning everything. Who even is Nimona? What do I even know about you? And then the whole Nimona, like, God, the Nimona backstory, like from then on is just, it's so heavy. It's so fucking heavy.
It's so sad. So she's like literally, like she does say, like, through most of the movie, she talks about how she's been alone. And every time someone calls her a monster, she's like very hurt by that.
Well,
right?
because her girlfriend dumped her, Ellie. Like, what?
I know.
I mean,
she was literally in love with Glorith. But
that was a harsh breakup, okay? The harshest breakups involve the entire town being set on fire. Like, that's just, it's a rough
just
time.
How it goes.
Not enough ice cream in the kingdom to get over that breakup.
The saddest part about it was before she met Glorith. When she's a shapeshifter, so she was like, I'm a bird. And the birds were like, no, you're not. And then she's like, I'm a horse. And the horse is like, no, you're not. Right?
Help.
Like, it
my
was
heart.
So sad. And then she was like, I'm a human. And Glorith was like, you can be whatever you want to be. And then when she shapeshifts and Glorith still loves her, like, there's also very little dialogue in the Glorith flashback, right? So you just see them like snuggling and like being friends. And like she like finally embraces who she is with Glorith. Like, it's such a coming out story, right?
Yes. Yes.
Where you're just like,
yes.
Oh my God. Like, you see a moment where she just like sighs because she's like, I can just be exactly who I am with this person. I don't have to worry about what shape do I need to take to like be palatable to them. That like wrecked me.
Well, and it's, I mean, listen, that whole thing, I mean, besides the fact that they're like gay for each other, for sure, there's something that is so deeply queer and resonant for queer people about exactly what you just said, which is like a story of someone being like, I don't fit in anywhere. I have finally found a person that I can be myself with, that I feel comfortable with, that I feel accepted by, and now their family is going to decide that I am a monster who is corrupting them and ruining their lives, and they can't be anywhere near me, and I am a danger to them, right? Like,
that just gave me goosebumps, like how depressing that is.
Yes. But that's what I'm saying is like that story for queer people
resonates.
Yes. Is like just feels so familiar. Mm-hmm. Right? And especially because of like, there's that one moment because Nimona and Glorith have been playing and like they're so close and they're so like, you know, they like understand each other and all this stuff. And there's like that one moment in that scene because she's playing, it's like she's playing with Glorith as like a bear or something, right? Yeah. She's like a bear. They're like rolling and playing and like tumbling as a bear, and they roll into town, and all these people see Glorith roll up
with a bear
held by a fucking grizzly bear, right? And she like sees them worrying, and turns back into little girl Nimona to be like, no, it's okay. I'm just a kid too. I'm just like you, right? And you see that like the openness and the naivete of her being like, no, it's okay, see? And like that moment being the switch for everyone else of like, oh, you're a monster. Like, I understand.
Yeah, you're
and
not
there's just like
a
that
bear, you're worse than a bear. And just like,
you're worse than a bear. And it's like, that's the moment for me that like kills me, because you can see how she's so desperately and like so openly just being like, no, it's okay,
I'm
look.
safe. Yeah.
Like, and like there's that little smile on her face of just like, see? And then everyone immediately is like, ah! And she's like, wait.
Yeah.
What? And they make them so little and adorable, and I just
it hurts.
It hurts so much.
Well, and then to add on top of
so much.
To add on top of it, right? This is like the storyline, right, where the parents say that, but then also because of society, her girlfriend, Glorith, is like, oh, they're right.
Yes, exactly. Because it's like that moment where Glorith turns against her and like and picks the sword up, right? And is like, oh, now everybody has turned you against me too. And it's just like, it is so like, yeah, I just don't think there is like, there's a lot to this movie, but that whole scene, the whole backstory of Nimona, I think is where like every gay person just broke a little bit in their soul.
It was so painful. I mean, I also think like that in and of itself could be a short film that we could talk about for 45 minutes. Like,
yes,
you know what I mean? Like,
easily.
There's so much depth to it of like, I find it so fascinating too. I feel like maybe this is a good time to talk about like animators and like in the midst of all these strikes and stuff, where it's like, the people who make these films, the fact that they animate it so subtly and specifically that one moment without any dialogue, just facial expressions, just the way they interact with each other means so much, is so cool to me. The fact that like when Nimona and Glorith even meet each other, right? She brings like an apple out or something, and then later she shapeshifts to get the apple, and there's like a small moment where she's like, is Glorith gonna I didn't realize, like, is Glorith gonna also reject me? And then it's like that wait a moment, and then she reaches for the apple, and they're like, oh my god, she still loves her. Like, there's so many like tiny moments in that like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, like it's so short. But there's so many tiny moments. And then you also flash back to Nimona now, flashing back to it. So it's like, okay, she's reliving this past trauma. And then she's like having it again, right? Because at this point, now her new friend, who she thought accepted her for who she was, is like, oh, you're a monster too.
Right, has questioned, who she is and what side does he want to be on.
Then she's like, okay, I guess I'm gonna be a monster. If you say I'm a monster, I'm a monster. Like that really like hits me. Of like, I wasn't a monster before,
right?
But the way that you have treated me turned me into a monster, and now I have so much rage in my body that I've turned into this like dark swirling vortex.
Nimona.
Rough.
No.
Nimona, no.
This is what I'm saying, is like the fun, chaotic, like guerrilla hijinks of the first half did not prepare me for like the soul sucking, like, hey, did you know actually that like we create our own monsters by othering people who just want to be accepted and loved, and also hatred is only taught, and like that this is what we do to our children? And I was just like,
I know.
why?
And literally the fact that it's
Why?
like, actually the heroes are the people who like lead with love and friendship and don't just like kill monsters without asking any questions. Oh, I'm just saying, like, that moment, right, where it's like, nobody can stop Nimona from her like monster rampage. She's, oh god, and it's actually like, oh, this is so painful. She literally said like, everyone wants to hurt me, like at some point I just want to let them.
Yes.
That made me break down crying.
I
right?
hate it
like
so
I don't know what's worse,
much.
like the fact that everyone wants to like put their, like, what did she say? Like, everyone wants to put their swords into me, or that I want to let them.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Well,
she's
and
literally
because-
about to like impale herself.
Yeah.
And she only gets stopped by like the like hug of her friend.
Well, and not only she's about to impale herself, she like walks to the giant fucking gilded statue of her ex-girlfriend
ex-lover
to impale herself, but that's what I was gonna say is like the other like just small scenes that kill me are when there's like this scene that shifts between young Glorith with her little wooden sword saying the like, you know, oh, like go back to the shadows from whence you came. And then it like transitions into the statue of Glorith that they put up in the kingdom. And it's like, there's just something about that small young girl's face that's like still kind of, you know, like just not sure, but doing what the adults in her life and in her community seem to expect of her.
Mm-hmm.
And then that sort of like turning into this like older,
glorified
hardened, glorified thing of hatred, right? And it's like, I think that switch especially just kills me too, because it's like, especially as queer people, as like someone with kids who spends a lot of time around kids these days, and who lives in a society where we are sort of constantly stuck in this dialogue right now about like what is appropriate to teach children, and like
and you're like, how about the appropriate thing is not to hate other people?
Is not to hate people.
How about that?
And because the thing is like what is so obvious when you're around a lot of kids is that they don't. Kids naturally don't. They actually don't hate people. Like, you have to teach them to, you know? And so it's like, it's just so sad to watch that immediate transition of like the young hesitant first step of being like, you're wrong to like, you existing is a bad thing. I have just realized because everyone around me seems to think
so.
It's a bad thing. To the, now we have built an entire society around you being a bad thing, you know? And it's just, it's like the way that it just makes that so stark is crushing.
Well, because it's like, it
crushing.
is such an like on the nose metaphor, but it also hits so hard, right?
Oh, it's so,
because you're like, oh my God, like the people in power who are like, monsters, like poor people, gay people, like anyone who is different from us and didn't grow up like us is like not worthy of what we have. At a certain point, the director looks at all these people like they are completely disposable. Their lives are disposable.
Yeah.
Not just like, you don't deserve to be a knight. Like, I will kill all of you rather than give up my worldview.
Yeah.
That you are bad.
Yep.
And that I am good.
And because especially like the one that the other thing is like, there's, when you watch it, when you're watching the movie, you don't know it yet, but there's that scene where she saves the little girl when she is being the mascot, the dragon mascot from the cereal. And Nimona saves the little girl and
she says monster.
The little girl immediately stands up and picks a sword up, right? And you don't get that kind of Glorith openness to accepting who Nimona is or even realizing that she just saved her life, right? Like, there's just this immediate, like, raising of the sword monster that, like, once you've seen the scene with Glorith, you're like, oh, fuck. Like, buh. But it's, you know, it's like you see how much that is now become a part of their society, right? To just be like, right, monsters are bad. You hate monsters. You fight monsters. You pick up a sword and you kill monsters. Like, and you just see how the change in children from Glorith's time to now,
1,000 years ago,
from like very apparent, right? The other thing that I keep thinking of that I just think is so funny is like, how long has it been since Glorith? And if Nimona was the monster, quote unquote, right? That they like built their whole fucking city around like protecting themselves from, and they have the walls and they have the big laser gun turret things and they have all this stuff, and you're like, if it was just Nimona, what the fuck have these knights been doing for how many hundreds of years? I just think it's so funny that they still have this like these elite positions, the knights protecting us from the monsters, and you're like, there hasn't
literally
been
do nothing.
There's never been a monster. There never was a monster. There hasn't been a monster in how many hundreds of years, and you've all been sitting around with your thumbs up your asses with your fancy plate mail armor on and your fancy golden hairdos and your whatever, and I'm like, you're just like your fancy TSA agents, you know, where you're like, you don't do anything. You accomplish nothing.
That's sort of the point, though. It's a commentary on politics, too, where it's like, you know, the best way to unite people is to unite them against something scary, quote unquote, even if that scary thing does not exist.
Yep.
Right? So it's like, it's actually probably better if it doesn't exist because you've united the people and you don't have to do shit. Right? A threat that does not actually exist, but you can tell everyone exists, then like, they're always still safe.
It's
and
the
you
perfect
kept them,
enemy.
You kept them safe. Oh, I kept you safe. You wouldn't see them. You wouldn't see monsters because we killed them all. You know?
Yes.
You've
Thank God the knights are here.
You've never
so
seen a monster because
never
we've been,
had to experience a monster attack.
Yeah. But they've just been sitting around doing nothing.
Just nothing. I just think it's so funny. It's so funny to me.
Yep.
That they've just been doing nothing. Yeah. It's amazing.
Sounds accurate. Do we want to talk a little bit about Boldheart himself? Because we sort of...
Oh, sure. Ballister.
Because we talked about Nimona, but I think, like, I do think it's a really good juxtaposition of two characters, right? This one character is, quote-unquote, technically a monster. They are a shapeshifter, which, like, all right. Quote, like, you can say they're a monster if you want, but like, what is a monster? But you have this other character who is a human who has dedicated their entire life to protecting your city, who like has only ever tried to do good things, but because he's poor, because he's not of noble blood, like he's quote unquote a monster, right? So you have like this like very drastic juxtaposition. Like literally the director killed the queen because a poor person was about to become a knight. Really? Really?
Yes.
You murdered the queen because how dare a peasant wear armor?
It's a very like Elon Musk solution to the world. Yeah.
Like wild. Like she's like, he's the first crack and blah, blah, blah. But her whole speech is like jarring because...
Say crack again.
Crack. Her whole speech is jarring because whoever is the actress also does such a good job of this. She feels so justified. And so that's the thing that also gets me too, is like you have these people in power who she truly thinks she's doing the right thing. And you're watching her and you're like, you killed somebody and you will kill more people. But you truly think you're doing what's best for the realm against this quote unquote monster, right? And so we have this guy who's like been put in that position his entire life. So I feel like he does question Nimona, but of course that's the person who like is kinder to Nimona because he's a kind of monster in society himself.
Well, and because he, like, I mean, Ballister, he's such a good example of that kind of person who thinks, like, I can change the system from the inside, you know? Like, I can follow the rules as they currently exist and still make things okay. It's not the rules that are wrong. We're just not realizing we made a mistake, you know? And you're like, no, these are the rules. Like, the rules are the problem. And it's like watching him have to get there by being othered, right? Like, I think that's the thing that still kills me about it is, like, the only person who ends up being able to see the problem is the person who has been also kicked out, right? And that's where I think it sort of always is depressing in some way, you know?
Because even still, like, Goldenloin doesn't really see it until the director's literally like, I'm going to kill half this city.
Yes.
Even he does not want to believe any of this even when the person he loves is telling him something. Like, this is the person you love, you trust, and you don't believe them. The system is that powerful that you don't even believe the person you trust most in this world. It's pretty, that's pretty depressing. Like, you literally have to see her about to murder an entire like section of your city to be like, oh, I guess you're right. And also the way that power manipulates too, like when the director's confession comes out and she's like, oh no, but look at this old scroll I just drew up. Like, and they're like, oh, the old scroll, it must be true.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, no parallels to anything going on in society today. Definitely not.
No.
Don't know what you're talking about. Don't see anything. Let's not.
The oldest scroll in the world. Actually, there's probably older scrolls.
But I mean, it's like I think the piece that it's like I love and also find it intensely depressing is, it's that watching Ballister be the only person who changes, and the only reason he changes is that he got kicked out too, and it's like it's why I think there is something to be said for like why, like it's even just like small silly stuff where it's like I see people all the time. Like, I mean, okay, listen, even within the fucking queer community, sometimes you get those like shitty people being like, oh, why are like ace and arrow people like part of the queer community when like they can still be heterosexual? And you're like, that's not the point. The point is because you are not part of the same path. You're not on that path that society tells you is the one right path. That's the whole idea of why we're over here. And we're over here, and if you're not on that path, then yes, you absolutely belong over here with us, all of the other queer folks. Like, it's not solely about who you are attracted to and whether, like, I'm like, it's not. There's just so much more to it than that. There's so much more, like, queerness looks like so many different things. Yes, right? But that's why, in
its core, it is rooted in otherness, is what you're saying.
It is rooted in otherness. And it's like, that's why we can all find community with each other, because there is an immediate community of not belonging somewhere else, Yes. And that's where Ballister finds himself. And Ballister is like the most reluctant gay ever, I guess. I'm like, Ballister, you gay bastard. Come on, my man. Like,
I
don't
know,
you
right?
see?
Like, it's in front of you. It's been literally, like, it is so in front of you. But same thing with Goldenloin, right? It's like, dude, like, there's that moment where they have that whole conversation at the like tavern, and I was like, oh, he gets it, and I'm like, oh my god, he still doesn't get it.
No, he so does not get it. Yeah, it's wild.
And then okay, so I will say, like, in terms of our gayness, it is like, okay, at the end our two gay boys are together, and finally, like,
they're so cute
together. They're so cute
together.
and sweet. We get a like cute little gay kiss, which like I love for this animated show, to like show like this, this relationship is the central like love romantic love relationship in our entire thing. So like I'm here for that gayness, and also just the fact that like there's so many, the message of it is about gayness. It is a queer
queerness
story,
and it's like I think there's something great about like Nate doing this after She-Ra. Like, first of all, just more sword gays. Just constantly give us sword gays, please and thank you. Like, yes. I'm here for this always. But it's also like I love that Nate, what must have been in the midst of his own like transition journey, giving us this story of this just, like incredible shape-shifting, like I mean, I know I always joke about Nimona as, kind of like The Good Place's Janet, like not a girl, but it's like Nimona's just Nimona.
Yes.
And I think that there's something so poignant and important in the current place that we are with trans discourse in our society, in the real world, you know, that it's like, yeah, there is actually something really incredible and awesome about this story, especially at a time where, like, our whole fucking country is just kind of doing this, right? Like, telling trans people that they are monsters, and you're like, yeah, actually, no, you're all fucking monsters. Terrible people. Like, that's the point. That's the point. That's the thing. That's what's happening here.
It's like,
we
are not monsters. You are monsters. But also,
we're just giant whales. Leave us alone.
I love that Nate always uses, not all, but like pretty, right? Like double trouble.
Yeah.
Also shapeshifter. Like, there's a very, like, non-binary theme with shapeshifters in Nate's work.
Yeah, I love it.
Which is very cool. And, like, subversive in a animated kind of way. Where it's like, we get it. But, like, somebody could watch this and, like, not understand that a shapeshifter is a non-binary character. Right?
It's cool, and it's like, God, I can't tell you, like, literally we watched this, and I immediately was like, how old do I think the girls will need to be until they can watch this and not be, like, terrified by it? You know, I'm like, at what age? Because I'm like, this is what I want my kids watching.
They should.
You know? Like, this is exactly the kind of stuff that I want to sit down and watch. I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to, like, sit down and get to, like, make sure that they do watch stuff like this and that they do internalize these ideas of, like, hey, actually, sometimes the heroes are wrong. The heroes aren't who you think they are. Sometimes the system is bad. Sometimes the stories that everybody has been saying and repeating for hundreds of years are bad and wrong and hurting people, you know? And I'm like, yes, fucking yes. Like,
what are some other animated movies you want to show them? I'm curious.
Animated? That's hard. I mean, it's like right now, most of the stuff I've been thinking about is like, they get so scared of, like, a lot of Disney movies that I really want to show them. I'm super excited. They will watch Encanto right now. That was one I was waiting for, and I was excited that they will sit and watch most of it. There's a couple parts we have to skip and stuff. I'm also excited to watch She-Ra with them. Like, I'm super excited for when they get old enough to watch that. I don't know. What's other animated stuff?
I feel like Zootopia is a good one. Do you like Zootopia?
Yeah. I feel like I haven't made. I need to, like, sit down and make a list. You know, right now I'm just like, what can I get you to watch?
Yeah,
without screaming and making me skip everything or shutting it off. Like,
because
we did.
Zootopia
I
has
did
a
get
similar theme.
Yeah. I got them to watch most of Inside Out with me, and that one I'd like to. I'm like, they got way too scared. We did make it through, but it ended with both of them, like, scream crying.
Oh God.
And I'm excited for them to maybe get another shot where they're a little less traumatized by it.
Nice. Anything else you want to talk about this film before we log off?
I don't know. Like, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the comedy. I really enjoyed the I just enjoyed Nimona as a character, I think. You know, like, I appreciated all the humor, but also the heaviness that they managed to wrap into one character, because Nimona's fucking bonkers. Nimona as, like, the little kid when they go hunt down the squire, you know, and Nimona,
I know, she's crazy.
Nimona shapeshifts into that little kid is, like, the chaos of Nimona and also the deep sadness of Nimona, like, I just think is great. It's
a very nuanced film, but, like, also enjoyable to watch, right? It's smart, it's intelligent, it's funny, it's, like, gives you the feels, but
it gives a lot of
but
feels.
It's enjoyable. Like, it's not like, doesn't feel like they're, like, trying to tell you this thing in, like, a super, like, bash you in the head kind of way.
Yeah.
But like I'm very open to the message, so I'm just like, yes, please tell me this message. This is great. I'm curious what people who are not queer think of this film.
That's what I was about to say. I the thing is like, again, I feel like my main thing is I wish Netflix was doing more promo marketing for it.
Yeah.
Because I really do think that it doesn't like beat you over the head with anything, but it's a pretty easy message to get, you know?
Yes.
And I don't know. I think I'm just it makes me so happy to look at all of the many kids I see growing up, you know, like all the girls' friends and stuff, and to just know that like this is the kind of stuff that like I'll be able to recommend to other parents, you know, and be like, oh my God, you know what your kid would love? Like he would love Nimona. Like one of their friends, I'm like, man, like he probably could actually watch this movie right now, but I'm like, maybe in like another year or two, I'm like, he's gonna fucking love this movie. And it's going to be great.
How much do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes?
On Rotten Tomatoes? If it doesn't have over 90%, it's a travesty.
It is 94%.
Great.
So, I mean, audience score is 91. So, I mean, I'm sure there's some negative feedback, but like for the most part, it's had a pretty positive response. So that's cool.
As it should.
It definitely should. I mean, it really was
great.
Super well done, like easy watch, enjoyable, like highly recommend for adults and children alike. But like, but actually, like I thoroughly enjoyed it.
You know what else I do want to say? I loved that. Well, I loved Chloe Grace Moretz in this. She was great. I loved Eugene getting cast in this.
Yes,
because he hasn't done a ton of acting stuff, like voice acting or otherwise, right? Like he's primarily from
Try
Guys, and he came out. When did he come out? Like a couple years ago.
2019.
My sense of time is slipping now. Like I remember at the time when he came out and like what a big thing that was. And this was like, I thought this was a really fun like role, you know.
Yes.
Like I enjoyed getting to see him do like this kind of a project. I thought that was really fun, and I thought he was really good in this. I liked him as Goldenloin.
Yes, we love Goldenloins.
Do we love Goldenloins? We'll see.
But yes, great film overall. Highly recommend. This is a good one for our Patreon, where we can be like upbeat, yes, instead of like this movie sucked and here's why.
No, I know, right? I know, and it's like I think that's why like it didn't feel like a Les-central necessarily, because there's not really like not exactly a lesbian character content in it.
Yeah, but it is very
great queer movie,
great
like,
queer film,
super gay, super well done. Loved it. I know a lot of our listeners have already watched it multiple times, like over and over and over again. And again, go watch it. Also, Netflix, please fucking promote it and / pay your writers and actors. Anyways,
yes, please. With that, I'm Ellie.
And I'm Leigh. And let's hang out again soon.
Let's hang out.
From the podcast that brought you to each of the last lesbian bars in the country and back in time through the sapphic history that shaped them, comes a brand new season of cruising beyond the bars. This is your host, Sarah Gabrielli, and I've spent the past year interviewing history-making lesbians and queer folks about all kinds of queer spaces, from bookstores to farms to line dancing and much more.
For 11 years, every night women slept illegally on the common.
We would move down to the West Indies to form a lesbian nation.
Meg Kristen coined the phrase women's music, but she would have liked to say it was lesbian music.
And that's kind of the origins of the Comedy River Collective.
You can listen to Cruising on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes air every other Tuesday starting February 4th.